Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with what I think should be the 137th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist. Let's review who we are. Picasso. I'll give you Picasso. The artist came to Hush House to shape and share a history of primal, ultimate, unprecedented experience. But you can complete the game by recording any history. You might wish to begin your studies with the Bosque Wisdom. Data was a start, the Surrealist Manifesto, a step along the road, but only a step. The road goes nowhere unless it goes into the wood, and that's a road we can only walk in the dark. Wait, no, not in the dark, in blood. Hip deep in blood. Oh, shut up, give it to me, I'll write it. Now, as is usual, we've had a week. I am really liking the new job, but it is keeping me busy, and actually this episode should be coming out on the day of the eclipse. The eclipse will probably have passed after, but I hope those of you who are in the area to enjoy it get to do so. And I don't think we will take this as any kind of significant event in the world of Book of Hours, but I suppose we do have the maybe we don't want to observe the eclipse directly through a telescope, but we have an observatory available to us if it comes down to it. Now, I am not going to lie, I'm kind of lost in terms of what my plans were. So we've got the honeyed forbidding. I think I was going to work out whether or not I could work with that. We do have the crystallized chamber. We do have something in the aspect of the Malachite. Sorry, not the aspect. The Our Lady Beneath. The perilous path, I think, is a less likely one for us to go through. Oh yes, I seem to remember I was debating on using an orchard keeper to try and open up the honeyed forbidding. I don't actually have a firm idea on that yet. Anyways, let's see what the next day brings. If I get hit by a Numa, I'm gonna be a little cranky. Alright, no Numa. What's happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? So, let's, now's not a bad time for me to just take a minute and take stock. So, one thing I could say, it's like, okay, well, if we want to know what our options are with the Orchard Keeper, in autumn, the orchard keepers come to sell their wares at Brandkrug. A shilling will buy one's help. Orchard keepers offer nectar and a little heart. Alternatively, add a soul card to find rarer guests who might be seeking employment. Now, I think I might have my notebook nearby because I did do some of this work already. I'm so sorry to do this, but just give me 1 second. I think it's in the other room. It shouldn't take me too long to find. Was exactly where I thought it was. Okay, so I know I keep doing this a few times over, but let's get the numbers down properly. So Orchard Keeper would be 2. From there, we would... I guess technically we could use the Hive's Lament. So that's a 4. So the tool would add 1. So from there, we're at... Actually, let me just work this out again. 2, 4, 1. So here we go 2 to 6 to 7. Then health. So that brings us up to 8. And we're looking for 14. So the easy answer there, of course, is the sacrament malachite. That gives us the 6. The alternatives, unfortunately. So the question then would be: is there a way for me to avoid, using such a powerful resource that technically I haven't made in any other way? And then that really just becomes a question of what's a way that I can find a food and a drink that's 3 nectar. At which point I think the answer is there isn't one. We have the cuckoo honey, which gives us 2. And I think, there's the... Essentially, we've got different combinations of food and drink, but none that really give us the 6 that would be required. So what it really comes down to here is, it's whether or not we want to use the sacrament malachite or not. And maybe one that could motivate a little bit of exploration in terms of the different elements of the soul, or not, the different skills, to see maybe whether or not we can build a replacement quickly enough. Now, the Mrs. Kill one should be relatively easy because we've done this a couple of times. So Mrs. K, that's the 1. So then we've got core, which would bring that to 3. So then we have a tool, which brings that to 4. And if memory serves, we would be using a storm or equivalent to bring that up to 8. So we're actually kind of at a similar... It's interesting to compare this to the Orchard Keeper, because essentially we wind up in very similar places. And so with the element of the soul, with the memory, and the tool, that leaves us with food and drink. So the last time I tried this, Ruby-Wise, Ruin, and Ham, which got me 10 and 12, but clearly that's not going to cut it this time around. At which point I seem to recall in the previous episode when I thought about this, it came down to a question of was I willing to use up one of the dolls. So a flushed Mommet would give me another 2. Yeah, so using a flushed Mommet and then a Ruby-Wise Ruin. I'll write that down actually. So from there, basically, I would use the Ruby-Wise Ruin and a Ham, or something that would get me the relevant heart. But yeah, the Flushed Mommet is essentially the key to unlocking this for Mrs. Kill. At least until I can find better, some better memories than that. So the way I'm thinking about this right now, I have better options available to me. I'm slightly inclined to say we're gonna hold off on the building, or the next areas. I may make an exception for the upper pump room. We might do something with that. But I think probably where I want my focus to be for the next little while would probably be on all of these books that I have. So Pyroglyphics. Oh, that's actually the one that I was probably going to put some serious effort into. So Pyroglyphics, we need Forge and Lantern. I realize there's a price I pay on YouTube to do so much planning at the start, but sometimes it's part of the job. So if we do Revelation, then we can say, actually, you know what? It's probably better for me to go over my shelves. It's a little bit better for memory. Okay, so Impulse doesn't help. Satisfaction doesn't. Revelation does. Bittersweet Certainty does. I think Foresight does. Regret does. Hindsight does not. Excuse me. Intuition, no. Gossip, Grail and Rose. Fear is Edge and Scale. Beguiling Melodies is Grail and Sky. Contradiction is Moon and Edge. Storm would be Heart and Sky. Salt doesn't have the Forge or... Sorry, I should probably say it what it is. So it's Knock, Moon, and Winter, I think. Pattern has Knock and Forge. So that's useful. I can never remember which this one is. Solace, right? So that's Mini Storm. Earth Sign doesn't help me. We've still got the Pattern. Savage Hymn. Oh, Savage Hymn's a tough one for me to remember, actually. I think that was a Scale Sky. Cheerful Ditties, Confounding Parables. Okay. And I started another shelf in here. This was for Stolen Secrets. So the tricky part is that I need one more... Well, okay, actually there's a couple of things that I can do here. I can either examine an object and get the sight, which is kind of nice because it has actually been a while since I have looked at an object. Alternatively, I could get the Newman. And I'm kind of indifferent on either option. Now, I think because I am going to hold off on any more room opening for a while, we're going to speak with Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Now, because we're going to be throwing everything at the... the pyroglyphics. I should probably get the Bittersweet Certainty, Pattern, and Newman queued up. But I also want to make some progress on the books that I have. So... And if memory served, I kind of worked out a game plan that I had, and then I've promptly forgotten it. So, let's take a minute here. The Iron Book is probably the least difficult for me to read and see results for. Yeah, the Iron Book's the safe option right now, actually. So I want to leave the Metal and the Faust aside. I don't think there's a lot of harm in me using another Arab here, so let's read this at Ava's desk. Deeds of the Scarred Captain might be kind of tempting too, but we'll start with the Iron Book and then we'll work our way up. Okay, so we need technically only 5 more in terms of memories. I'll explain why in just a second. So Edicts Martial... Okay, Auroral Contemplations would give me the 5, but Sickle and Eclipse is probably the best option here. It's overkill, but it'll do. Right, I can master this mystery. Enough edge to match Mystery Forge. So basically, if I only had the 5 for the edge, I would be able to bring in the Cucurbit Barrette. I will not try Deeds of the Scarred Captain until we've read through that one. Now, I am on the fence about whether I should try the Burning Woman. I think what I might do, I might try to use the Perinculate with the Cucurbit Prisoner records. And one other small drawback I can see is that I don't believe there is a Forge ink except for Orpiment Exultant, which is like the really powerful one. So, yeah, this is a tough call. Okay, so theoretically, if I wanted to go for the Cucurbit prisoner records, let's see how far I could go with this. So my highest scale is not that high. So we'd throw in Inks of Power, I think, for, yeah. Then we get to 10 with the Newman. We need 12. Yeah, Perinculate is actually overkill there. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. It's going to be a little unconventional, but I'm happy with it. So we're going to go to Natan's desk with our FET. And we are going to start by reading Julian... Sorry. Julian Cosley's House of Glass. And we're going to use that as an input into reading the Cucurbit prisoner records. I am a clown. I actually already did that. Okay. Should have paid attention. Well, that's fine. We can still get the reading that we wanted done. Might be a good idea for me to find something with either Nock Scale or Winter to use as an input in crafting, just so I don't waste it. Okay, Inks of Power, Inescapable Confinement. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to use the Serpent Style Glass. Unless, actually, hang on. Yeah, there was Ugal ink. I think it was just the Perinculate which had the higher level scale. So we're going to take our chances with the Serpent Style Glass. Scale buried. Perhaps you provide a scale, but not enough to match Mystery Scale. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. And then the last thing that I'm going to do here is get my Bittersweet Certainty pattern and not the Newman yet, but we'll get the other two. And in fact, that's a small argument for maybe me to use the site again, because I obviously made a mistake. Okay. We'll use FET at the Vagabond desk. And from that, we will use Glimmerings. And then for the pattern, I think we did Cardia's Delight, so we're on to Just Verse. I'm trying to find a place for my mothy work, or tryst, I guess. Okay. That gives us a start. So I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to do with the core. Like, it would seem to me that probably Rites of the Roots is going to be the thing that allows me to get the Sacrament Malachite. Maybe not. Was it Orchids and Narcotics? No, that's Sacrament Calcite. I remember we read I think it had a reference to the Applebright. In any case, a lot of these are quite low, so it's hard to see how I would wind up with a Sacrament Malachite out of all of these. Let's leave that aside, and in this case, I'm just going to let the day go by, and then we'll maybe take a look. Ooh, that gale might change some of the factors. All right, another amethyst ampule. Were it released from the glass, it would be quite another color. And I think the time has come for us to recover my tryst. And in fact, the scale may give me a hand. Mrs. Skillston's ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. Okay, we got to give this a couple seconds in bed. So if I want to restore my tryst, I can take the gale here. So again, we're looking for sky on this side. I do need a drink. In this case, I think probably it's a question of I'll just take one of the glasses of water on the various counters. So we're still down 2 in terms of sky, but we have plenty of options. I could use drums and dances, but let's find something a little bit lower that would still satisfy the requirements. No, that doesn't take rows. Cure my malady. You've supplied enough sky. I think I might also be able to get away with using like the basket of clean linen, but there's plenty of water around the area. So the basket of linen is actually an interesting option simply because it's a way, you'll notice in, I should probably be making a bit of money at the Sweet Bones. It's easy to make quite a bit of money in this game, and so the ability to heal through laundry effectively is kind of a neat way of handling that. You'll notice I tend to like using my drinks still, but it's mostly just because I develop habits. But it was sort of interesting to see how the game is being tweaked based on a larger number of people playing it now. There tisn't can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. At some point, I think maybe after I do all of my research here, I'll take some time to like really investigate what I can build with my various skills, and we'll maybe see if that can push us a bit further. Okay, the affair of the Oriflamme heist is finished. Oriflamme's auction house is never robbed, but what if it has been? What if somehow Price's treasures have been replaced with pricey forgeries? How could we even be sure? So we had a visit from Hokebald. Magister Hokebald, employed by Oriflammes to make improvements to their vault, thought he might have found useful information at Hush House, although he was careful to point out that it wasn't very useful. Dagmar. Daymare was clearly concerned that she might be blamed for the heist, real or not, justly or not, but her researches at Hush House gave her hope that she might escape suspicion. Olympie, Madame Bichet, thought she'd identified oddities in Oriflamme's account of their security measures, and what she found at Hush House encouraged her to look into the matter further. Zachary Wakefield was close-mouthed about his suspicions of what had really happened at Oriflamme's, but he did share one hint. One door closes, another door opens, and another. And Serena, Dr. Blackwood, suspected that someone at Oriflamme's had invented the story of the heist themselves. She couldn't imagine why, but she learnt enough from me to be taken seriously by her contact there. A story has no beginning or end. Arbitrarily, one chooses that moment of experience from which to look back, or from which to look ahead. Graham Greene. Okay, so we've got our inescapable confinement back. Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the Cucurbit. The prisoner is plainly terrified and bewildered by their situation, and has been unable to wrangle a coherent explanation out of anyone, but the dreams keep coming, and they keep writing them down. Snow, broken mirrors, half-heard sky music, flowers of white, red, and black, a blood-streaked winter dawn, the most notorious signifiers of oniric risk, fantastically vivid and detailed. No wonder they were locked up. Their final recorded dream is of a worm jewel beneath Brankrug Isle, which they open with a key carved from their finger bone. Eventually, the sun in rags always brings its beautiful ending. And Just Verse, a rare surviving copy of Christopher Olopoly's notoriously unsuccessful volume of experimental poetry published in 1912. Olopoly is clearly more interested in the occult than in the aesthetic aspects of the work. By most measures, the rhymes are contrived, the meter inconsistent, the imagery banal. Still, even the worst verses have a compelling quality, and I find myself drumming my fingers on the desk to accompany their rhythms. In an afterword, Elopoli discusses mnemonic holometaboli, by which he seems to mean a sort of crafting process where memories, when fed into preliminal meter technique in the presence of enough knock or rows, can blossom and fissure into more potent versions of themselves. Pattern. Something fits just right. Okay. I'm still gonna hold on to sort of... I want to keep my Elements of the Soul in reserve just to see if we can get a little bit more out of the books that we're reading. I'll still make some money at the Sweet Bones, but that's just going to be cycling through in terms of using and then restoring. There's the regret. There 'tis and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. And Dr. Ibn al-Adim, nothing in particular is afoot. Any visitors this season will likely just want a general consultation. Dr. Ibn al-Adim the Alapine, historian, doctor, and above all, traveler. The good doctor has been associated with all but one of the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. He was even secretary nunciant of Hush House, or possibly Hush House for a little while, but has never been on good terms with the Suppression Bureau. Now, Dr. al-Adim has Frisian, Aramaic, Greek, Sanskrit, Sabazine, and Latin. Unfortunately, what we're looking for is Hyksos, so sometimes what happens is we'll have a visitor during these intermediate periods. There's not a whole lot of money that I'll make out of this, but usually for these intermediate ones, I've often hoped that they will come with certain languages. We went a little more aggressive on languages in this playthrough than on the stream, and so in this case here, there's just going to be a few more cases like this where there's just not a whole lot to worry about in terms of the visitors. We'll still satisfy his curiosity, of course. It's just it's not going to be a high priority. Feels quite loud. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And we got another regret. Not ideal, but again, this is kind of why we're holding back on Elements of the Soul. It's options not just for pyroglyphics, well, it's options sort of both ways. I completely ignored what was going on here. But I do have a memory, so I don't know what the other two were. There's still a chance. Element of the Soul card. I don't know what the one earlier was. But we do have a memory which we can use, the Earth sign. The Iron Book, a manual of the Ordo Limea, an order of quasi-immortals who maintained a secret enclave at the source of the river Limia in the Roman province of Hispania Gallicaea. This manual was compiled by one Milari Yivni, who claims to have traveled to join the Ordo from the crossroads of the waters. Members of the Ordo took an oath, the Iron Chain, that required them to remain hidden from the world. This manual includes presumably long obsolete addresses and passphrases that could have been used to find the Ordo's contact in the town of Iria. The final part of the manual describes the punishments for Ordo members who break their oath of secrecy. This includes an invocation used to summon the spirit called King Crucible as an act of vengeance. Yivni cautions that this must be a last resort when the Oathbreaker would otherwise go unpunished. Summoning King Crucible might draw the personal attention of the Forge of Days. A marginal note suggests, in any case, that King Crucible, in the most transcendent sulk of sulks, no longer leaves the Mansus. So 2 Disciplines of the Hammer, and a Foresight. Well, I mean, that's not a hardship, but that is going to be going into pyroglyphics rather than leveling up Disciplines of the Hammer. This is my Foresight wall. before the day is done, I'll want to make sure that I apply, I want to get the Earth sign back. All right, the Cucurbit Prisoner Records 1928. Accounts by Governor Collar's private secretary of interventions and experiments in the last years of the Cucurbit prison, focusing particularly on the hill children, wild wood things that have found a shape in the physical world. Something called a singlefoot, a horned mountain dweller, is brought back from some kind of embassy to the Grove of Green Immortals. Collars expresses his irritation that Gervenius van Lauren refuses to assist in its containment. The Singlefoot somehow conjures an earthquake that cracks the tower and enables its escape. Collars determines that it should not have been permitted to dream while kept beneath the earth. It had access to sufficient scale aspect to use its arts of hill and hollow to develop an old moment into an earthquake name. He mandates above-ground confinement for all hill children prisoners in the future. So this gives us assault, which is a little bit of a surprising memory, and there are the two hill and hollow. So a bit of a lumpy way of handling the Cucurbit prisoner records, but we got through it, which is the main part. And it looks like we do have space for at least one more volume. It looks a little weird beside these other ones, but you know what? I'll take it. Now I think I'm going to use my core to get the Earth sign back. And let's take a minute here. So Hill and Hollow takes Moon. I don't think the Gossip or the Salt don't really help here. Oh, sorry, Gossip or the Storm don't help. We could use the Inescapable Confinement, though. So I just need one more Moon memory, and I can make use of that. I'll need to get either the Trist or the health back, but it's a way that I can sort of make the most of my ingredients. The other alternative is that we do have a knock, so we could use this salt. We could sleep on it. We'll see. Let's actually work out what I need for the rest of the day. So let's say I'm going to use the Fost for the pyroglyphics. So right now I need 6. I've got 4, so we need 2 elements of the soul for that. That leaves me a free metal. Which theoretically I could use with Disciplines of the Hammer or not Hill and Hollow. I could theoretically use with Disciplines of the Hammer. Okay. And then of course I have the Heart, which is going to be coming back in a little bit too. And I know we're at the halfway point of the day, but I think I might have to call it here. I'll maybe wait for the Sweet Bones to finish up, but the direction of the day now is going to be more towards trying to use up as many of these memories as I can. Better now. I'm thinking at this point probably just cycling through the metal and the core and the cache is the way to go on this one. I think I said I was going to experiment with some recipes and such, but I think probably right now we want to digest what we have. The main focus I think is going to be we'll deal with our lessons, we'll crack one of these forge texts. That's going to require some dedicated effort, and then after that, maybe we'll take stock of what books are available to me. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm also going to want to work with the Deeds of the Scarred Captain, because that'll be a straightforward one to improve. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, we're in a good spot because right now there's not a whole lot that I don't know how to do. Right. In this case, this is really just a question of using my elements of the soul efficiently. But it does also, I mean, the reality is that I'm probably going to have a few days of of doing some of this stuff. It would be nice if I could avoid that, but I think this is just the reality of what I'm dealing with. Anyways, yes, I think I will leave it here. Thank you very much for watching. On tomorrow, Tuesday, there's going to be a break, as there normally is. We'll be back on Wednesday to finish off these lessons, finish off the day, and then I'm going to try and, quickly as I can anyway, get through sort of the lessons and start getting some of the stories that we see inside of these. I don't think I'm going to prioritize opening rooms for the next little bit, but there are definitely some things that we can pick up in terms of just little extras and little bits of lore. So it's one reason why I want to focus on the books for the next little while. Anyways, take care. We'll see you in the next one.